Greetings viewers. I modified my Harley Evolution engine. I made it look a bit different as well. So, a clever Harley man once told me, if your engine's in good tune, you should get 1 horsepower per cubic inch. This is an 80 cubic inch engine. I think I'm pretty close to 80 horsepower. Originally when they come out they were perhaps 55. I don't know, somewhere around that. You hear all different things. Anyhow, I'd like to tell you what I've done. Well, the first thing, obvious, which no one else has got, is this air filter. Hang on. Let me get it from an angle where you can see that. See, I'm pushing that in. It's foam. The whole lot's foam. I read a book. I can read. I read a book on airflow. Air doesn't like going around corners. So, Mr. Harley Davidson, why would you put a flat plate in front of the hole? That's pretty dumb, isn't it? And they all do it. Or you get the fancy pretty ones that have got an elbow and the spike at the front, and this has, so the air can go straight down the hole. Next minute behind that, another clever person told me that did some work on racing sportsters that there's horsepower in the inlet manifold. No one ever talks about that. No one. Here we've got a manifold of the Sporty. See, the manifold is a Y shape. See, this one is just like a T, and that one's a Y. T is bad. Plumbers use T's. Y is good. Now, the clever person who told me this actually owned his own dyno and flow bench. So he actually knows, he wasn't guessing. He said 30, they gained, he actually got one of these T's and put like plasticine in the middle and built it into, oh, you can't see down the hole, but he built it up into a Y shape with plasticine, and he got 30% improved flow. So there you go. So the air filter goes straight in the hole. Then I have a Y manifold. I've done the inlet ports. I don't understand port design. There's clever people that understand port design. Well, they tell you that they do. Just because it's polished all shiny doesn't mean it's going to work. But only the flow bench knows if it works or not. It might look beautiful, but you might go backwards. So all I've done is clean up the inlet ports, and I port matched them. So there's no humps and bumps where the manifold meets the inlet port. If you take the carby off, you can actually put your finger down, and I marked it with a scriber and then got into it with the die grinder and port match. So there's nothing, there's no restrictions, there's no curl, there's no swirls going on. It goes straight in. I did do a little bit with the die grinder at the back of the inlet port, only because a friend told me. But basically the ports are original. I didn't do the exhaust ports, I didn't touch them. Not necessary. You'll create reversion. You need some. You need a few humps and bumps in your exhaust side of it. Also, I've gone for a McCuney carby. mainly because I had it, but not a 42. It's a flat slide, but it's the early one. It's a 40mm McCuney. It's brand new. And so we have a 40mm McCuney. The 42s are actually a bit better because they have roller bearings where the flat slide goes. The flat sides, if you've got a McCuney and you hear a bit of a ticking noise from this side of the engine, that's your flat slide going backwards and forwards, going duck, 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 duck. You'll hear it. I'll start this up for you. Yeah. I could gain a bit more horsepower with a 2-into-1 system, but I like the look of this. It suits the bike. It's just, I don't think I'll do it. Plus they're expensive. Yes, I've kept it low compression. It's I haven't. I did put new pistons in because I damaged one piston. There was nothing wrong with the pistons. So I put new pistons in. I've given a light hone, new set of rings. I do have my own new way cutters. So I have redone the valve seats, the 3-angle valve seat. Nothing real special, especially I don't know what I'm doing, so yeah, just a basic. And I put new valves in it because I don't have a valve grinder. So it was just easy to buy brand new valves. They're not that expensive. Just factory Harley valves, nothing fancy. I had put a new camshaft in it. I have put an EV3 camshaft. EV27, very, very, very common cam for an Evo. And they perform well. An EV3 and an EV27 are only 1 degree different. They are very, very similar cams. I believe that the EV27 is a later model and it has steeper ramps, so you will get a little bit more bang out of the 27. But I wanted the quiet, and this is the quietest engine. I've had about 10 Harleys. This is the quietest Harley engine I've ever had. It's very quiet, very quiet. No rattles, no nothing. I have the, what do they call them, the lockers or something, the rocker lockers. I didn't put them in. I'll save them for another motor because it's just so quiet. Because it's the first engine, the first of the Evos, 1984, they say that it had issues. Not really. In my opinion, when they build the first bike, they actually do it properly. So the base where the cylinders meet the crankcase are machined on this, whereas the later Evos they didn't. They decided they could save some money. The casting is very good, and they decided they'll save some money. They won't machine them. They'll just bang it straight on. And it's partly why you get base gasket leaks on later model Harley Evo engines, because they didn't machine the base gasket. And the later model ones, you'll find if you measure your deck height, which is where the top of the piston is in relation to the top of the barrel, you'll find the later ones are 8 or 9 thou down the hole. So that's the material they left to get machined off. And because mine's been machined, mine has 0 deck height from the factory. So the top of the piston is exactly the same as the top of the barrel. And then another clever person that I spent an afternoon with told me you must have 30 thou squish. You can go tighter than that, you can go 25, but because they're big pistons and as the engine wears a bit, the piston will rock a bit. If you only go 25, you might find where the piston starts tapping on the head, which you don't want that. So 30 thou squish, and and we did that as well. So, and this does run nice. This runs nice. I think I have my 1 horsepower per cubic inch. I think I'm very close to my 80 horsepower. If not, a 2-in-1 would get me there. If I put a 2-in-1 on this, I am confident I would have 80 horsepower. As it is, I might have mid-70s, 75, 76, I'm guessing. How can I guess? I think I have the right to guess. The last Evo I sold, I didn't do any engine work, but I put a 2-in-1 and a McCuney, and I set it all up right, and I had it tuned. And the guy who bought it off me turned up on a 110 CVO. And when he turned up, I said, "This goes really good. It might even scare you 110." And he was young. He was a punk. He was in his 30s, had lots of money. And when I said it might scare you CVO, he rolled his eyes and give me the, "You stupid old bastard look." Well, anyhow, after he bought it and he rode it twice, he test rode it, then couldn't believe it, and then test rode it again. And then when he was leaving, I said, "I'll follow you back a bit." I was curious, I wanted to know. And I followed him back a bit, and he didn't want to get in front of me. I was going a bit too quick for him. And finally I let him get in front of me, and he come out of a corner and he give it to it. Well, I was closing in on him. With the old Dyna, the old Evo was closing in on the 110, I can tell you. So I'd say, and this has more power than what that had. This runs strong. This runs real strong. So just running through it again. So flow through air cleaner, McCuney 40mm, Y manifold, port matched, clean up the ports, 30 thou squish, EV3 cam, and oh yes, and electronic ignition. I have I use the Ultima. It works beautiful until it breaks down, I suppose, but it works beautiful. I might even carry a spare. They're not that expensive. I think I might carry a spare ignition system. But the single fire ignition system, that'll give you a bit more as well. They seem to like that. So that's what I've done to my engine. And this runs well. This is a good running Evo. I'm going to start this up for you. We'll just come round here. You can't see, it's all dark. I'll just turn the fuel on, pull the choke out. Fuel's on, choke's out. Ignition on, we're in neutral, hit button. Choke off. You're not supposed to do that. Put the choke on again. So there you go. I'll let you have a listen to the flat slide. Hear that noise? That's the flat slide going backwards and forwards. That's a quiet engine. So there you go. 1984 FLHTC. First of the Evolution engines. Love my Evo. There you go, folks. Please subscribe. It's only hitting a button and it would help me out. I seem to be getting quite a few views now. Well, not thousands, but I'm getting there. I'm slowly getting there. But if you subscribe, that would be really helpful. And a thumbs up. Be all good. One thing, yeah, I'm just remembering something. When I put the EV3 cam in, it's supposed to have the same base circle diameter as the original cam, if you know what that means. So that means you're supposed to be able to use the original push rods, which I did. Well, it didn't work. I had no compression, so I had to put adjustable push rods with the EV3. I believe in EV27 you can use the original push rods. I've never tried it. So that was a little trap that I fell into. Another trap I did when I was hooking up the exhaust, and this is why I changed the pistons. You're not going to believe this happened. But when you hook up the throttle cables up inside here, there's a little brass thing that hooks onto the nipple and then fits into the hole. Well, one fell down, bounced off my knee. I didn't have the carby on. Went inside the manifold and went inside the engine. And it chipped the side of the piston. I could have run the piston, but because it had a little chip on the side, I thought it'd be a hot spot. I thought it might be an issue, so I bought some new pistons. Another thing I need to tell you, I bought a tool to change the inner cam bearing, which is a must-do on an Evo. If you buy a second-hand Evo, put a new cam bearing in. It's basically the only fault the engine has is and it's only certain models that had a bodgy bearing in there. So you really should do that. So when I was pushing the cam bearing back in, the tool that does it, pulling it out is fine because it's up against the side of the case. So pulling it out was easy, but when I was pushing it back in, I actually stripped the threads because it's only holding with 2 1/4-inch bolts, and it wasn't strong enough. So as I started winding the bearing in, it actually stripped those threads out, and I had to helicoil them. So in hindsight, I'd say with the tool, you'd wind a bit of pressure on, give it a little tap. Wind a bit more pressure, give it a little tap. Wind a bit more pressure, give it a little tap. Yeah, so there's something else I learnt. What else did I learn? Yeah, I think that's the only 2 real mistakes I made. Anyhow, hopefully you got something out of that. I'm thinking I'm close to 80 horsepower and maybe a bit more torque than that, maybe 85 foot-pound of torque. I'm only reading what other figures, other dyno people are getting. I'm hoping I got a little bit more because of my free flow air cleaner that nobody else does. And I think a new standard Milwaukee 8, you know, without all the hot up bits, in the smaller, the 114, I think is about 80 horsepower, but it makes 100 foot-pound of torque or something. I reckon I can scare an M8 with this. Maybe. I'll find out one day. Anyhow, thanks for watching. And have a nice day. It's been raining here forever. I'm supposed to go for a ride with my brother tomorrow. I've just bought some wet weather gear, so we'll see what happens. I can actually ride a motorbike, believe it or not. Not a mark on me, not one scar, not one broken bone. I shouldn't have said that. Alright, thanks for coming.